Live.
Welcome into week 12 of the NFL. We are BTV Analytics. We're going to talk model predictions. We're going to talk NFL landscape and even some futures. We may even be able to answer some questions live. We'll get all of that on the other side. Let's get into it.
Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please. I'm trying to get paid. Not today.
All right, Steve, the NFL season marches on. We are now headed in to week 12, coming off a 50% weekend. We've had a number of these 50% weekends. We're going to talk about who the real AR is because, man, the Jets, maybe something's going on there. But anyways, the first game we're going to get into, Cardinals, Seahawks, divisional matchup here. Our model has a ton of value, showing a ton of value there for the Arizona Cardinals. We gave out and bet a +1 at open. This is now coming in our direction, sitting at pick'em in some cases, -1 out there in the market, supporting that Arizona move. Again, this is a divisional matchup here between Arizona and Seattle. Based off the numbers that I have in our database, these teams are actually quite similar. And that's not all that surprising. I mean, these teams are kind of, used to playing each other a lot, but from a standpoint of offensive side of the ball, Arizona definitely takes the cake, and Arizona is the stronger team. But on the defensive side of the ball, definitely Seattle is a bit stronger than Arizona. Arizona is the 5th best passing offense, 7th best rushing offense. Seattle 14th passing the ball, 24th rushing the ball for us. And our EPA per game for quarterback play, Kyler is playing better than Geno this year. Kyler is 8th in our database and Geno is 13th. So tell me why the Arizona Cardinals are going to cover against Seattle this week.
Man, I mean, this is the classic definition of a coin toss game, at least from my mind. I mean, you talk about this here, looking at how similar these two teams are in terms of kind of generic overall categorical rankings. The one thing that kind of surprised me going into this was how well, I guess, I thought versus how well they actually are versus the eye test was of how Cardinals defense is playing. Is that going to be enough to kind of keep them in this game against Seattle, where you already mentioned that Kyler is playing better than Geno? So the one thing I'm looking at here is kind of looking at, can we continue to have the passing game for Kyler explode here? You've seen what's happening with Marvin Harrison Jr., who by all accounts is really underperforming, I think, to a lot of people's expectations. But this offense is clicking. I mean, you saw what they did to the Jets last week. And I know the Jets are an absolute free fall, but their defense is supposed to be their calling card, and it's supposed to be pretty good throughout this season. And putting up 31, I mean, they made it look damn near easy. And then on the other side, Seattle's coming off a pretty impressive win as well over the 49ers. So, I mean, to me, I think what you're going to see is kind of, you're going to have that offensive firepower that we've known to expect from the Cardinals, particularly in the passing game. And I think that's going to be enough to have the sort of late game heroics. I can see this easily being a field goal game, and the model number agrees there.
Yeah. I mean, you are getting a bump here for the Arizona Cardinals coming off a bye. So we do incorporate that into our model. And I think that there's some value on being added from that standpoint. And then really on the offensive side of the ball, when we're looking at the drive quality, Arizona 53% echo rate, where Seattle only 47% of their drives are getting to the 40 or better and resulting in an echo. So I think you're getting, again, you're buying two different things here. If you want to be a Seattle backer, you're buying the defense. If you're buying Arizona covering, you're buying the offense. And like you're saying, in a divisional game shootout off of a bye, give me +1, give me pick them for Arizona. We think there's a ton of value. We make this number, I think, 3. So we have Arizona winning by that field goal, which obviously is so crucial in the NFL. And when you're getting them at a pick 'em or +1 in our case, you're getting a ton of value. Looks like we've already printed a whole point here. That'd be interesting to see if we can get a -1, -1.5 for Cardinals at close. That'd be a really good position to be in. And quite frankly, we always say this, the bet is won when you place it, not when the game happens. Meaning if you're getting 2, 3, 4 points of value game in, week out, you're going to win in the NFL. You're going to win in any sports betting market. But in the NFL with so much liquidity, that's what you're really looking for to measure that CLV. All right. Anything else on your mind for this game?
No, I think the big thing is going to be, can we see the Arizona Cardinals really sustain those drives and get to the opponent's 40? Their success rate, how often they're getting good chunk plays on, first down, second, third, and fourth. Definitions are in the description if you haven't heard of that. Has been pretty damn good this season. I expect more of that to continue, and that's really going to have to be because we've seen, statistics aside, we've seen Geno make some pretty spectacular plays sprinkled in throughout the season. But I think there's been a little more to be desired on a play-to-play basis. I think we're seeing the Arizona kind of morph into that more consistently potent offensive team, and that's been a big part of their game plan. So if we continue to see that, I see no reason why Arizona can't win this game. But it should be absolutely fun to watch. So I'm excited to watch these two teams play.
Yeah, and you make a good call out there for success rate versus EPA per play, both per play metrics. But when you can see discordance there between how basically you can have a team with a high EPA per play, but a lower success rate, what that means is you are relying on boom and bust plays, aka explosive plays. And the reality is explosives are just not something you want to hang your hat on week in and week out from a betting standpoint, because there's not a lot of signal there. There's weeks where teams are going to have multiple explosives, but then we're going to regress and have no explosives because, again, that's the definition of explosives. They are volatile, right? And so I think the success rate there for Seattle for offensive numbers, I can't remember if these teams are similar.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing about 2% less of plays are resulting in successful offensive plays for Seattle. So meaning 47.6% of the Arizona Cardinals plays are deemed successful, but only 45.2% of Seattle. So a little less success there on a per play basis for Seattle. And then it's almost the opposite for defense. Again, the Seattle Seahawks have a much more robust defense than the Cardinals. Okay. Anything else on this game?
No, I just love it. And you see the edge percent there, you never have the edge you think you have. That's kind of phrase you'll hear us say over and over again. Yeah. But this is a bet that I really do love as a fan, as a backer of the model, as a backer of the data-driven process. And again, our money's on Arizona, and I'm excited to watch this game.
Okay, well, if you love that bet, you're going to hate this one. The next game we got is Detroit versus Indianapolis, and our model loves Indianapolis Colts. Yeah, that's right. Indianapolis Colts, ton of value here at the +8. We make this number 6 going through the key of 7. We get the 7 in a hook. We actually have the 8, so we even have some push probability over at the 8 and can cover at a 7, 7.5. Obviously, we cover as well, but we can push at an 8. The model here, I think, is just picking up that, and if you're looking at it from a non-model standpoint, you're going to have a ton of recency bias, and it's going to make this bet even more comfortable. The Lions are coming off of maybe one of the most dominant wins we've seen in the NFL in a long time. I think they won by 52 or maybe 56 against Jacksonville. Now, the major thing I want to point out, this Indianapolis Colts defense is not as bad as Jacksonville's defense. We saw the Chicago Bears have a similar success rate against that Jacksonville defense. And obviously that offense is nowhere near as potent as Detroit. So I think that's really what the model's picking up here. Indianapolis, 17th passing offense and 19th rushing offense. Detroit, 3rd best passing offense, 2nd best rushing offense. But defensively, Detroit, 3rd against the pass, 6th against the rush. Indianapolis, 11th against the pass, 12 against the rush. And I only need to take you back only 2 weeks. When Detroit played Houston, we were on Houston +3.5. We're in a situation here where we're getting through, instead of the key of the field goal, we're going through the key of 7 here in the touchdown. And Indianapolis Colts and Houston's defenses are very, very similar. So I think you're picking up there. So I would caution you here, if you want to be betting with your mental model or your heart, don't get overblown by that recency bias of what happened last week. It is an anomaly to win by 50 whatever points. All right, Steve, tell me where the model's getting it right. Tell me where the model's getting it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I echo, cats and horses, and then the comments there who just shout out no from the depths of the soul here. But we said the same thing last week, and again, like I keep going back to this. If you guys watch us week in and week out, you know that it is a common trend where we see a bet that is absolutely freaking gross, and we all hate it. And that bet is the one that ends up cashing. And again, we were on, I guess this is the 3rd week in a row we're on a game that the Lions play, right? Because you said we had Houston against the Lions.
Yeah, actually,
hated it. absolutely hated it. And look what happened. They covered. And then we had Lions against the Jags. We were on the Lions big at 30 to cover the 13.5 spread. And they won by like 46 or something. It was like 52-6 or something like that. And then now we're on the flip side against the Lions again with the Colts with AR. And again, this does feel gross. If you're watching this, we're with you. Again, we're all about transparency. We hate this bet, or I'm saying myself, I hate this bet from an emotional standpoint. But what does give me confidence here is, again, we flip-flop back and forth from a model standpoint. Again, it's not us projecting or thinking or guessing here. So I do feel kind of really smart and sharp on this one, because we had the same argument against Houston, or for Houston against Detroit there. So there is a mechanism here. There is a pathway to victory, and I'm trusting the model to find those key differences that emotionally I know for damn sure I couldn't find, or at least handle.
Yeah, I mean, look, is Detroit about the same as the Bills?
Right.
I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
That spread was 4.5. So
I see what you're saying.
You're getting a 3.5 point bump here. Is Detroit 3.5 points better? No, they're not on a power rating basis. Now, can Detroit cover? Yes. So please, I don't want to hear it in the comments that if you think like that, you're screwed. You're never going to win money sports betting. But looking at a power rating here, this is too many points. This is too many points, especially through that hook. And if it feels gross. I'm with you, but you've already gotten really positive feedback. All of the 8s are gone.
Yeah,
all of them. You can't bet an 8 anymore. Oh, guess what? Most of the -110s are gone. This is now priced mostly at minus 120 over at Circa, -115 at Chris. I mean, you have sharps betting this. Professionals are betting this number. Other people using information and models, not just their intuition, are betting this. So, we're printing CLV, and getting CLV is really the hallmark of success. Who gives a shit how we feel about it? So those are the two things I would hang my hat on, and really where I think, we can bring ourselves back to, the uncomfortableness. Because when I saw it, it's the same thing. It does feel uncomfortable. Now, I want to say something. The real AR must stand up here, okay? We saw Anthony Richardson play pretty poorly this season. He got benched. He came back last week, and he went into New York and stole the rights to AR. Aaron Rodgers is dead. The new AR is Anthony Richardson. But in order to cover this number, we are going to have to see the new AR. We're going to have to see that new and improved what he showed us against the Jets, going down the field with 2 minutes left to win that game. He drove the ball there on third down, or ran the ball there on third down to win that game. I think that's the AR we need to see. If we see how he played in some of these other games and made some of these huge mistakes, I think it's going to be much tougher to cover this 7.5. Any thoughts on quarterback play there?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds kind of counterintuitive, because the whole narrative has always been Joe Flacco, the legend that won't die. We talked about this on the podcast multiple times, from his kind of heroic run with the Browns towards the end of the regular season. We were against them in the playoffs. We kept trying to tell people, look at the stats, look at the numbers, look at the volatility and the EPA per play. Like you're due for a heavy regression. And boy, oh boy, did it happen. And then it's kind of same thing this year. He came in first couple of games, had some real positive expectations, real positive results. And then we saw the Joe Flacco for who he really was. And so I say all that to say, yeah, the book has been out on AR, and there's a whole conversation about rookie quarterbacks and how the league is treating them and really setting them up for failure. And we kind of call Richardson a rookie quarterback for the most part because of the lack of games he's played in his NFL career, even though he's not really a rookie. But, I don't know if the upside, the ceiling for AR is higher in my mind than this for Joe Flacco. The floor is definitely higher for Joe Flacco, as we've seen, is why AR got benched in the first place. But I think you do have to see what you have there. And I'm with you. If we have the AR that we got last week, then yeah, this bet becomes a lot more palatable. You just don't know, in my mind, which one you're getting, and only time will tell. There's no other way to do that but to go forward. So I'm with you on this one.
Yeah, and actually, as you say that right now, I think about this. Every time we bet against the Colts and lost, AR was starting, and every time we bet against the Colts and we covered, it was with Joe Flacco. So maybe AR has been AR this whole time from a covering standpoint. Sure. And we'll see here. But obviously, he's made some mistakes that we're going to want to see him avoid in this game. Okay, 7.5 is the play. We have an 8. We would play it at 7.5. I think I think the 7s go away. I think, or 7.5s go away. I think this closes at 7. I don't think we're getting through the 7. I think at that point you're going to see buying. But if you see this number get through 6.5, I mean, that's a slam dunk bet. Whether that thing wins or loses, we just printed like a 5% edge. So that's what we're looking for. And that's where we're going to go. Okay, we march on. We're headed to Eagles versus Rams. What a matchup. The model has a lean in this game, and that is that it likes the Eagles. It makes this number 3. When it opened, you could get a 2.5. All those 2.5s were, boom, gone. Now, you can get a 2.5 minus 120, and we can talk about if that's a good play here on the other end. But what is the model seeing here? We're seeing Philadelphia be the 9th best pass offense, number 1 rushing offense. Man, that's Saquon free agency, right? Was a crazy pickup. And again, number 1 rushing offense for Philly. LA 13th best passing offense, 15th best rushing offense. On the defensive side of the ball, Philly 8th against the pass, 4th against the rush. Their defense has been improving week in and week out. And LA 19th against the pass, 14th against the rush. Rams are basically the definition of mediocre. We're not seeing anything too crazy offensively from them. We're not seeing anything too bad from them. But again, we've seen tale of two teams. This team could not score a touchdown literally against Miami. And then when they went and played a little bit easier of competition, they had success against New England. So what do you think the model is picking up here to like Philly by a field goal?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're seeing here is Philly, like you said, is getting better week in and week out on both sides of the ball. But really, that offensive key is kind of what we're, at least what I'm hanging my hat on here. We talk about how Saquon has really been dominating in this rush, and Philly passed it over expected. I don't know if we have it pulled up on a graphic there, but this is a team that runs the ball there, negative 9.1%, meaning that they're running about 9% more over expectation. And that has a lot to do with Jalen Hurts and even more to do with Saquon Barkley. And so you have an LA team which is kind of sort of middle of the road and not really too good, but not too bad in stopping anything. I think there's just enough holes here with an improving offense where the Eagles are going to score a lot of points. I mean, we've seen them have some pretty good wins over the Bengals, over the Cowboys, and over the Commanders, kind of wrapping out, 3 of the 4 last weeks there. So, I mean, this is a team that's kind of really getting it all together. LA's not terrible, right? I mean, I love the Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. We all think of them as kind of that offensive firepower. But I'm with you, Seth. Like, this is a really good team versus a kind of good team. And I think a 3 is very appropriate, even on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you here. I mean, Philly's defense to me is really the thing that is clicking and where we wanted to see improvement, because that's kind of where a lot of the issues came at the last part of last season. And I think that they're solving it. Again, they're 8th passing defense, 4th rushing defense. So, I mean, they're definitely making strides there. And I think it's going to be something similar. If Miami's defense can have success against LA, I'm really looking for Philadelphia's defense to do something similar. I also want to point out quarterback play this season. Hurts is playing pretty well and actually quite a lot better than Stafford. When we're looking at our last 10 game EPA per game sample, Hurts is number 7 with 4 points added per game. And when we look at Stafford, we're only looking at him as the 10th best quarterback with only 2.8 points added per game. So you're getting a bit of a better quarterback play out of Hurts as well relative to Stafford. So I like that as well. Okay, so the interesting thing here is, like I said, all of the 2.5s are bought up. Now there are some books playing a little game of chicken, and what that means is that you can. I'm trying to do the math here. So you can get a 2.5, but unfortunately, you can only get it at minus 120. Now, shout out Profit X. Kevin is a big fan of them. I haven't had a chance to use them yet. Have you used them yet? But no, sorry, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Yeah, no.
You haven't used them yet. Okay, so Profit X is basically a way we can just call it a peer-to-peer. It's kind of working through the sweepstakes method, but it's more of a peer-to-peer platform where you're going to be able to get better odds. If you want to bet a Profit X, you can get a minus 115. I say all that because if you want to bet this at a minus 120, that is a break even of 54.5, which is basically a 0.5% edge. So you take that that edge that you see there, Eric, if we can pull that up, you'll see that there's about a 3% edge. That 3% edge goes all the way down to a 0.5% edge if you bet a minus 120. Now, if you bet a 115, on the other hand, you will take your break even to 53% and you'll gain about a 2% edge. So shout out ProfitX if you want to go bet over there. Do we have a sign up code? I think we may have a sign up code BTB potentially. But if not, go check it out because you can just get better odds and means that you will lose less or win more. So ProfitX minus 115, minus 2.5, or minus 120, 2.5 are still EV plays, but they're just much less EV.
Sure. Hey, we want to talk real quick because I think this is kind of a good point. So we got a comment in here: is the -2 at Caesars price right at minus 140? Could you briefly explain why that half point from 2.5 to 2 is worth 20? And I just want to say real quick, and this might not answer your question initially, but one, I would say probably just avoid the -2. I mean, you've seen the market kind of go the other way, so there's really no rush to kind of get that -2 when you get a -2.5, and the market makers are going to 3, and we'll see kind of where that goes from there. But then two, also kind of looking at alt lines. I'm not sure, is that -2 you're looking at? Is that an alt line price? Is that the standard line that the Caesars posting? Because sometimes what they'll do, depending on where you're looking at, is they'll throw some, and ESPN Bet is notorious for this. They'll throw alt line prices and make it look like that's the regular line. But if you go to the actual list of lines, you'll see that the regular line, that's i.e. -110 or -115, is actually below their proposed and more expensive alt line. So be a little cautious on that. But long story short, we're trying to, not all points are created equal, especially as you converge around key numbers. And so when you get closer on and especially off a key number, so 3, 7, we think about football, those numbers are going to get pricier. But this is why it's so important to line shop, right? Because you're going to see a lot of these shenanigans that the books do in terms of trying to nickel and dime you. And while you may not think that a -140 or a -130 or whatever it may be is all that, bad compared to -110 or 115, it goes back to your break-even percentage. And long story short, we have a video on this. I don't want to harp on it too much. You can check our page off for more explanation. But if you can convert those odds to your to a break-even percentage, that tells you how many of those bets, what percentage of those bets you have to win over time just to break even. And when you go from 52.4 to 54 to 56, like that's really, really hard to do. Especially over a large sample size. So those things do mean a lot, and that's why the books do it to you. And the last thing I'll say, Cats and Horses, if that is an alt line, again, I go back to our BTB code for unabated. They also have an alt line derivatives, and so you can find the equivalent alternate lines. And if you look at -2.5, if you look at -2.5 spread at -110 as an alt line for -2, the equivalent alt line price would be -115. So there really is no point of chasing that -140 for multiple reasons, because the way the market's going, as well as just kind of the value there. But Seth, is there anything you want to add on next? I know you've done a lot on our socials.
Yeah, can you pull that back up?
For sure.
Put in numbers. Put in spread equals -3, and then in the alt line leave -2.
-137.
So there you go. That's more of the situation. And I'll tell you why, because all of the market making books have 3. So you're saying the truth should be 3, and there's the derivative. I do believe, Steve, it is an alt line. When I pull up Caesars, it shows a 3 for the game. Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about this in the college game or college show, and here there's separate issues. The other thing, I think I 100% agree with everything you just said. The other thing in the question here is, Steve, can you we might have a ProfitX code. We'll try to get to it, but is you have to come up with a value framework. You have to have a way to be able to say, if I make the number this and I can bet a that, in this case, I make the number 3 and we can bet a -2. How often does that cover? You have to have some value framework. Now, we use the value framework that Robbie created from NFELO, and in his numbers, if you can bet a -2, but you make the number -3, that will cover 55.39% of the time. A -140, like Steve just highlighted for you, when you break that to convert that to a break-even percentage, you need to be right 58.3% of the time. What do you know? you're going to lose about 3% every time you make that bet. Basically, you have a negative 3% expected value. So you need to have some type of value framework to be able to price. This is what I, based off what I think the number is and based off the number I can bet, what is the cover probability? So that is a long way of saying, no, don't bet the -2 at -1, -2, -140. Again, the best bet you can make here if you want to get the points is that 2.5 -115 at Profit X. You'll have about a 2% edge. Or if you don't have Profit X, you have -120. You'll have about a 0.5% edge. But you still have the edge in your favor versus a negative EV bet. All right. Did by chance did we look up to see if we have a code?
Yeah, I'm trying to check the emails. I don't see anything in there, but we will figure this out.
Okay.
Cats and horses. So we will get this
if
to you.
Kevin is in the chat, let us know, Kevin. It doesn't sound like he is. All right. We are headed in. Anything else in the Rams, Eagles Rams game?
No, actually, and I just confirmed it is code BTB. So
BTB.
same as unabated for Profit X.
What do we
BTB.
get? What do you get? What do the people get?
Oh, that's a great question. I know they get a discount. It's a discount on it. I gotta look.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All good. Use code BTB. It helps us a lot. It helps Profit X. It'll help you. Everybody wins here. Use code BTB, Profit X. I got to use the code myself. I got to get in there because I want to take the +115 or -115 so I can just print some value, guys. Okay. Headed into the next game. Bucks versus New York Giants. Holy moly. The Giants are doing Giants things. They say, no more Daniel Jones. No, Drew Lock. We don't want Drew Lock. He can just stay our backup. He's been the backup. He's been there all season. No, you just stay where you're at. We're going Tommy Cutlets. Tommy DeVito is the #1 quarterback. Bam. Market is reacting. This thing opened at 4.5. That's my best guess here. Technically, this really opened on Sunday night at 3.5, but no one knew that Tommy Cutlets was going to be the quarterback. This, in my best assessment, reopened at 4.5. We went ahead and we took a 5.5. Our model shows a ton of value with this new change at quarterback. We see a huge downgrade. Now, there is some sentiment that Tommy DeVito is basically the same quarterback as they had before. I do not think that that's the same thing. I think Daniel Jones was a little bit better of a quarterback and doesn't have the same floor that DeVito has. Just to run through some numbers, Tampa Bay, 7th passing offense, 5th best rushing offense. The Giants, 22nd passing offense, 8th rushing offense. But on the defense, New York Giants are a bit superior, 15th best passing offense, 23rd best rushing. New York Giants, 15th best passing defense, 23rd rushing defense, and then Tampa Bay, 25th passing defense and 16th rushing defense. Key injuries here for Tampa Bay in that they are potentially getting a bunch of people back. Mike Evans, Tristan Wirfs, those are two of the big names in my opinion, that if both of those come back, I think this 5.5 is a steal, and I won't be surprised if the thing moves through the 7. But tell me why you like this bet, and tell me why maybe the model's got this wrong in your mind, if at all.
No, not a freaking chance. I mean, I love this bet, and this is one where you're gonna have to try to walk me off a cliff here. Like, I'm not gonna go alt season and go beyond the 7. But I'm finding it very hard not to get some extra little cutlet servings of the -5.5, really anything up to -6.5 here. I mean, I get it. If you look at just the box score, right? You'll say, okay, well, the Bucks, yeah, they lost to the Chiefs, they lost to the Niners, they lost to the Ravens, they lost to the Falcons. But if you watch those games, right? I mean, first and foremost, like you mentioned, huge injuries. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Tristan Wirfs been out. Like, those are all-star players, all pro, all NFL. That's a huge part of their offense, and they've just sort of had to go back on the fly. But if you actually watch those games, I mean, that Bucks-Chiefs game, the reason the Buccaneers lost that game was because Patrick Mahomes bills them. He got the ball first in overtime, and that was all she wrote. They didn't have a chance to rebuttal. You watch the 49ers game. Again, Baker Mayfield is making godlike plays that we haven't seen from any quarterback, including Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, and he's playing absolutely out of his mind, and they lose on a last-second score again. This team is a lot better than what their record indicates, and they've been doing it without having all their healthy pieces. So if they get their all-pro, offensive tackle back, if they get Mike Evans back as a wide receiver help, I mean, this is a team that is going to absolutely pounce on, let's be honest, a bottom feeder Giants team, right? Like it's very rare in the NFL that you see a quarterback change outside of the first game with Andy Dalton this year, right, in Carolina, really spark a team around. And we even saw what happened with Andy Dalton after that first start. We saw what happened after Joe Flacco after that first start, right? I mean, I get why the Giants are doing it. It sucks they paid Daniel Jones all that money, but this Buccaneers team is the real deal who's overcome a lot of stuff. I love this through 6.5.
Yeah. Now I want to highlight the pathway for the Giants here, and I will say that Baker is susceptible to pressure, and I do believe that this Giants defense is superior to. Well, it's one of the better defenses they've faced, and it's going to be one of the better pass rushes. Now, I think you should suspect to see something similar to the San Francisco game where they were able to kind of keep going. Now, the question becomes when you're looking at the 25th worst passing defense for Tampa Bay, does DeVito have success here? He caught a little bit of lightning last year, and I'm worried. Now, when we look at the per play data here for what we're getting out of quarterback play, Baker, like you said, is playing very well. 6.3 points added per game this season in the last 10 games. DeVito obviously hasn't played this season, but in his last 10 games, -1 point added per game. And so, my question here is, is this unfortunate, like where the stars align? If Worst doesn't come back, Mike Evans was at practice, so I'm assuming, he's on track to play in this game, but say he doesn't come back, you get pressure to Baker, and then you give DeVito time and he's able to kind of pick you apart. Is that where the upset comes from? 5.5 for this team is getting a little high from a power rating standpoint, but yeah, I'm with you. The mental model seems to like this a lot, but I know better than to just discount an NFL team. I mean, this Giants team, you can call them a bottom feeder, but when you want to compare them to their peers at the bottom, I don't think that they're a bottom feeding team. They're much better than Jacksonville. They're much better than Carolina. In fact, Carolina beat them. So, I guess that would be an argument for why they are a bottom feeder team. But
tell me more.
I don't know.
No,
I guess that's why they're making a quarterback change. I don't know. I like it. We bet it, but I can see a world where 5.5 is too many. And this Giants team has just been weirdly a bit of a thorn in team sides.
Sure. And yeah, I mean, we come back to the real world of sports betting and NFL, right? It's why we play the game. Anything can happen. And you're right, Sexy Dexy Lawrence. I mean, he's been a force to reckon with on that D line for the Giants, who, yeah, the defense has been surprisingly good. But I think for me, like that just further highlights, even with a really good defense that the New York Giants have, their offense has been so abysmal. Like this is why they're 2-8. This is why, in my mind, they're a bottom feeder team. Is why I use that term. But I definitely get what you're saying. I think that's very, very real. But one thing I want to highlight about the strength of the model, and Seth, this better than anyone here, is what I love is that we do model quarterback play. And to the point there, like, so we can quantify what is a Tommy DeVito worth compared to a Daniel Jones. And I definitely get the sentiment of a quarterback bump in play coming out in their first start. I think I'd be a little more worried if this were Tommy DeVito last year, right? We really didn't know what we were getting, and then he kind of was that lightning in a bottle, like you mentioned. I think because we've already had some experience, you can see teams game plan for him. I think it's probably less likely for him to explode. But again, that's just my personal emotional feeling about it. There is tape on him. We know what he does in real life. So I like Tampa Bay's ability to potentially kind of contain him a little bit more, as long as they let him run wild, right? I mean, as long as DeVito isn't playing, I don't know, I want to say Josh Allen, that's a big, maybe like a Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, like
Patrick
really,
Mahomes.
really, really good, maybe not elite, but really, really, really good quarterback play. I think this is in check. But you're right. If he does have a hell of a game, it's an NFL team, right? 5.5 could be potentially too much. I do like it though.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we did get the information from Kevin. So ProfitX welcome bonus 2% match volume back up to 300. Use code BTB. If you want to take the Giants in this game, you can get a hell of a number, +4.5, +108, or you can lay the points to take Tampa Bay with us, -4.5, -126 over at ProfitX. All right. I agree. We bet it. It is what it is, whether we like it or not. The market's been buying this all week. We'll see if it ends up getting to 6 or 7. All right. we're headed to the Harbaugh Super Bowl.
Yes.
Baltimore versus Chargers. The brothers collide here. And man, it couldn't come at a better time because both of these teams are red hot. Now, Baltimore obviously coming off a loss, but still one of the best teams in the NFL. Baltimore, number one against the number one best passing offense, number 3 rushing offense. On the other side of the ball for the Chargers, number 1 against the pass, number 3 against the rush. So they are just strength on strength. For Chargers, 12th best passing offense, 14th best rushing offense, but Baltimore 23 against the pass and number 2 against the run. Baltimore is that quintessential pass funnel. All right, Steve, what are you thinking here? The model makes this number 5. When it opened at 3, it shows about a 1% edge. But where do you make this? Who is covering this game? Who is winning this game?
You know, I gotta be honest. I really haven't been following the Chargers a lot up to last week. Kind of looking at how they've been playing and whatnot. And this defense has just been surprisingly good. Like I always knew in the back of my mind that they were decent, I guess. But I mean, they've been elites, and I really didn't have a much of an appreciation for that. Now you mentioned here, looking at the Baltimore, this is a team that I think we've kind of pegged as someone who can play in the AFC Championship, if not the Super Bowl. Obviously, the Chiefs and the Bills have something to say about that. But what they've been doing phenomenally is running the ball. You can see that with their negative 7.8% pass rate over expected. They're good at running the ball. They know they're good at running the ball, so they're going to run the damn ball. And you can have Lamar make plays here and there as need be. With that being said, my gut reaction is I do want to side with the Ravens, but there's something gnawing at me that just says this is a ripe opportunity for the Chargers, a really balanced, great defense to kind of slow, not stop, but maybe slow that Baltimore run offense down. And then you have enough here for Justin Herbert facing a pass funnel defense to kind of just go nuts here, right? I mean, we've seen Baltimore get into these high scoring games, but for the most part, that's really been on the ground. We haven't seen Lamar really have to do a ton this year through the air itself. And so can you make a game script where you let Herbert kind of run wild, get up into a shootout, and the Chargers defense do just enough to really force Lamar to have to make plays more consistently throughout the game, where we've seen him be prone to turnovers. So the fan in me wants to say the Ravens, but the better in me, I want to take the points. I want to go with Chargers.
Yeah. This is a very interesting game. And when we look at the statistics, we see something really interesting. Baltimore, 58% of their offensive drives are resulting in getting to the 40 or better, which is what we call an ECHL. Chargers, only 46% of those offensive drives are resulting in an ECHL. That's a huge difference, over 10%. Now, defensively, it's the tail of the other side of the coin. Chargers, 34% of their team, of the offensive teams they're going up against result in an ECHL. So they're only allowing teams to get 34% of their drives to the 40 or better. Baltimore, on the other hand, 54% of their defensive drives, they're letting their opponent get to the 40 or better. That's a huge difference. And so my question is this the kind of right position for, like you said, Herbert to be able to throw the hell out of the ball, get their offensive numbers back up, but then see regression for Baltimore? That's what the numbers might say, but I want to point out something else. You said you haven't been paying attention to the Chargers, and this is the kind of time that maybe everybody else wasn't, and they're going to be on display here going against one of the better NFL teams, if not maybe a top 3 or 4 NFL team. Chargers wins Vegas, Carolina, Denver, New Orleans, Cleveland, Tennessee, last week, or the other day, Cincinnati. What do those teams have in common? Pretty bad teams. Their losses: Kansas City, Arizona, and Pittsburgh. This is, to me, the tale of two different, NFLs. When they go and they play, this is classic Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh. Like when they go play the bad team or whatever, they beat up on them. But then when they would get to the Ohio State, they would get slaughtered by Ohio State. Obviously, they figured out how to get past that. But it's something similar here when they're playing the really elite NFL teams. They aren't winning. They're not covering. To me, Baltimore is that elite team. Now, the one thing that I would say that Baltimore doesn't have that most of these other teams have, they have elite defenses. Now, Arizona is the one exception to that rule, where I would say Arizona's defense isn't that elite, but their offense is shaping up to be one of the better offenses this season. So Is that enough for the Baltimore side of the ball, that elite offense that they have, to pull away? And it is a different level of league than what clearly the Chargers can beat. That's the only angle there I have to be a Baltimore supporter. Anything else does feel like, I mean, the problem is, what are you really getting? Because you're not getting if you want to be a Charger backer, in my opinion, bet money line, because you're just pushing through the 3. You're just pushing at 3. You're not saving you're not getting 3.5. Give me the Chargers all day. Sure. If you want to be on that side of this. But at this 3, you're just getting a bunch of cover probability. I'm sorry, not instead of cover probability, you're getting push probability where they lose by 3. And now that's nice. You don't lose your money, but you don't win. And so for me, from a betting standpoint, I think if you think that there's value on that side of the ball, I think you're better off in this case going ahead and taking the money line, because the 3 isn't going to get you much. At least from that bump in win probability. That would be my 2 cents. Our model likes Baltimore in this case. Quantifying all this, I would tend to kind of agree with the model in this situation, but can see a pathway for the Chargers. All right. Any official play on this then for you? Were you playing this, staying away?
Nah. Yeah. Okay. Nah. I'm too on the fence.
Same. Not for me. Too rich for me. All right. Perfect. Cool. Next, we are going into NFL efficiency landscape. We're going to talk about some of these teams, where we currently at. We are seeing the offensive wave we have now. For a long time, it was just Baltimore and Washington. Now we're seeing Buffalo, Detroit pull closer into that offense. Washington moving a little back a bit, but this landscape is coming into shape here now through 11 weeks. We have a ton of plays, so we're really starting to see who these teams are. Some teams, not so surprising. Carolina, basically exactly where they were last year. They haven't moved. A team that is now right next to them, the Dallas Cowboys. Holy moly. This team was in the quadrant of elite, and they couldn't have fallen faster to now the quadrant of woe. Talk to me about your thoughts on Dallas. Is this just a complete failure? I mean, they basically took no free agency moves. They thought it was just going to be rainbows and sunshine, and it has been just tears and clouds.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I wanted to save it for the off the numbers here, but let's go ahead and do this now. Seth, ask me how ass are the Cowboys.
How ass are the Cowboys, Steve?
Oh, I'll show you. That ass. That's how ass the Cowboys are right now. All right. This is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this is an organizational failure from top to bottom. And then before the game last week, and we're going to hone in on that. Just let that soak in.
Make that a single shot. Yeah.
We can, I think the perfect symbolism of the Cowboys was before that game against the Texans. You had debris falling from the roof of the stadium when they were trying to open up, like the stadium, quote, literally falling apart. Like that's the perfect symbolism of this team. I'm with you. I mean, this is just from top to bottom. I just don't see how you have any belief in this squad. I mean, this is a team that has been blown out in at least 3 to 4 of their last 5 games. We talked about it last week. What about this Texans team coming in being 7-point favorites? Do we really think that they were that much better? And for me, it wasn't necessarily a talent issue. It was just you're at risk of losing this locker room. Like, if you're the Cowboys, what are you playing for? Right? Everyone's unhappy. You've got your star running back who's getting way fewer carries and kind of work there next to Rico Dowdle because he's not showing up. He's late to things. Your star quarterback himself is out. He's saying this team suck. You got defensive players talking about they feel worse for the players than Mike McCarthy. It seems like this is an inevitable pathway to having a clear house, fire Mike McCarthy, fire the coaching staff. But then again, it's Jerry Jones. And when does Jerry Jones do anything that you expect a normal person to do? So I don't know what to expect, but I know this for damn sure. If I'm the Cowboys fan, I am not mentioning it's our year for at least another half decade, because that's how bad this season's been.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't really ever been their year. They haven't really ever finished in a long time. Yeah, very interesting. I mean, we haven't really seen that in recent past. They made like probably less than 10 free agency moves. I mean, something crazy. And by less than 10 moves, also meaning that they lost a ton in free agency that they didn't correct. Like Pollard leaving. Like it's very interesting to see there what that team has been. And I don't know, I don't remember a fall off like this hard, but not due to injury. Now, obviously, Dak is injured, but that team was headed in this direction. I'm sure it accelerated that move, but it'll be interesting to see what those teams. Eric, can we bring back the landscape? There are some interesting teams here. We're seeing the Lions really just put on a clinic last week against Jacksonville. Buffalo obviously had a dominant win against Kansas City. And they're pulling into that full, quadrant of elite, two best teams offensively and defensively. So I was curious to see, is there value right now on these teams? Because they're playing well. And I don't say they're flying under the radar, but to me, maybe Detroit is, but Buffalo really to me isn't getting talked about to be an NFL contender, maybe like they should be. And so what I wanted to understand was, okay, is there any value for Super Bowl wins? Is there any value for, winning the conference, anything like that? And I came across an interesting bet. We ran some simulations and we made this number plus 225 for Buffalo to win the AFC. Now, the reason that's interesting is we also make Detroit plus 129 for them to win the NFC. And FanDuel has an interesting bet where you can bet Buffalo to play Detroit plus 900.
Ooh.
Now I backdoor my way into a little loophole that they mathematically didn't figure out. You could, or better, you can just parlay Detroit NFC winner and Bills AFC winner, and it's plus 915. So you're better off to do that. But our numbers actually show about a 3% edge to do that. So I don't know. I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on what you think. Now, we've done really well in college basketball futures, especially around some of these markets, because they get pretty interesting. Like they just do a lot of weird stuff. And so one of our favorite markets is an or market that they put up. So this team or that team to win. This is a bit different because you basically need both of those teams to win their respective conferences. But what are your thoughts on that playoff? So meaning if, Baltimore makes it, then, you lose. But if Detroit plays Buffalo, you're going to win plus 915. You're going to get to cash that in. What's your thoughts?
I love that. And this is not even me just like, oh, parlay, put my degenerate cap on. Like, no, this is a well thought out, relatively highly probable, kind of given all things considered, scenario. When I say highly probable, I'm not saying like 70 or 80. I'm thinking like, 30 or, 40, but, relatively speaking. So, your playoff, right. So, but I love this. I mean, you're looking at these teams from an NFC standpoint. Obviously, anything can happen, but you look at the top 6 teams now, right? So Lions, Eagles, Cardinals, Falcons, Vikings, Packers, and then say what Commanders in a wild card if the year ended today. To me, that's a very favorable route to see maybe the Lions versus Eagles in the NFC playoff. And again, I'm taking Lions at this point in time over anybody else in the NFC. AFC gets a little harder, right? I mean, you gotta face the juggernaut in the room, and that's going to be the Chiefs. And let's not, pretend like you can't have something crazy happen. Again, the Ravens right now, I think by record, looking at the kind of playoff standings, the Ravens would actually be a 6 seed if the season ended today because the Steelers are winning the North, right? So that could disrupt some things pretty early on, but
of course.
For a plus 915, right? And I have to try to do the backdoor to math on what that calculates to.
Yeah, here, let me I have the calculation. Just give me a second.
Sure. So, just looking at that plus 915 as an implied probability. Yeah, I think I'm taking that odd. So, but yeah, let's see what's that work out to.
Okay, so plus 129 is 43%. So there's 43% chance that Detroit wins the NFC. Mm-hmm. Then plus 225 is a 30.7% chance that Buffalo wins. Multiplying those together is a 10% chance. So like you were saying high, like it's
Oh, no,
a
no, I'm
pretty.
sorry. No, I'm sorry. I mean, for each one of them, I mean, it's kind of spot on.
Oh, yeah.
30%
So
for
43.6 for Detroit and 30.7 for Buffalo. But when you have to take
right.
the union of
When you
these, so
parlay
it's
yes.
yeah. So you're taking you have a 10% chance that will win. But if you convert 915 plus 915, that's a 13.4%. So you get a 3% edge on that
Right.
bet.
Right. And I think for me,
The
like,
reason
go ahead.
I was just gonna say the reason I'm not jumping out of the roof to do is because like this only wins 1 out of 10 times, like 1.3 out of 10 times. It's not a lot of
Right.
times. You
Right.
got to bet this a lot to win the money.
But man, if that hits the first time, well, you
Oh,
can
yeah.
talk your shit for days, for
Yeah.
years. No, I'm with you. But no, I think for me, to your point, I think that's kind of where I thought individually, like
Yeah.
that
Makes sense.
those percentages kind of check out with my mental model. So it kind of is good to see that those are kind of quite on hand. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good call out. I think it's a great discussion. And then listen, if someone's out there, put it this way, we know somebody watching this, we know our friends in our real lives are going to have futures, they're going to have BS parlays anyway.
Oh yeah. If you don't care about making money, but you lie to yourself and you tell yourself you're going to make money sports betting, this is a bet for you.
Yeah.
It's like a good EV bet. You are making a expected value bet. You are expected to profit here. Can you get variance? Can you get things that don't go in your favor? 100%. It's just what exactly does that look like? You know, that I don't have all the answers to.
Yeah. All right. And I tell you what, I'm gonna text Mo. And actually, look, you got one believer right here. Cats and Horses, shout out. You're the real one. Let's go.
Right.
Let's go.
Hopefully you took my advice though. Don't believe their plus 900 number. You have to parlay them together and you get plus 915. That's the real cheat. And I did confirm FanDuel is pretty much the best place to do that. That's the best one. Okay, I got one more for you.
Yeah.
This one's this was made for you. So I was running these sims. I'm just hunting. I'm looking.
Sure.
Looking at the market, see what's there. Are there any good situations? Okay. We are on under 8.5 wins for Chicago.
Yeah.
And I'm running the sims. I'm like, okay, well, as I was wanting to check in on what that is. We currently make the number for Chicago to win 8.5 games minus 2,152. So not very probable. It's very improbable that they're going to go over the 8.5 number.
Yeah.
But the new market is 5.5, and we make that minus 229 to go over.
Okay.
So how bold are you? Do you want to double dip here? How much do you trust your Bears here? Do you trust them enough that they're going to go over the 5.5, but not go over the 8.5? Because we don't want to bet against ourselves.
Right.
We're sitting here with a good bet.
Right. And so you're saying the new bet would be the over 5.5, right?
New bet at FanDuel over 5.5 minus 142. We make this minus 229.
Okay, I'm with you. So there's a ton of value to be had here.
Yeah, I'll do the math while you're thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, while you're doing the math, I'm going to kind of walk through. So they're at 4 wins right now. So the bet is, can they win 2 more games against the Vikings, the Lions, the Niners, the Vikings again, the Lions again, the Seahawks, and the Packers at Lambeau Field, which historically we've gotten our asses whooped since the dawn of time, or really since my my lifetime.
This is a 10% edge.
Oh, man.
On a bet that wins, the market is saying it wins like 58% of the time.
Yeah. Here's the thing. The way we lost against the Packers, with everything going right, your hopes all-time high, you've got to kick the field goal to win, which is, anyone who's a Bears fan knows, Bears fans cringe at field goals ever since we played the Eagles in the playoffs, the double doink. And then to see that field goal blocked and us lose that game against our heated rivals, that reminded me of one thing and one thing only. being a Bears fan is nothing but absolute pain and misery. They will, whatever you want them to do, they're going to do the opposite. We wanted them to lose by more than 6.5, and what did they do? They lost by 1. We wanted them to, kind of win more than 8.5 or lose more than or not win more than 8.5 games. They got to a hot start. So I don't know. I'm probably going to stay away because I know they're going to hurt me. I get the EV is EV and edge is edge. It's a little too rich for my blood personally. I just don't know what Thomas Brown's going to do for this team, but it's a great exercise in value betting and why I have a lot more to go to be a better, smarter better than an emotional better.
No, well, in this case, I don't know if you actually hold any of the under 8.5 tickets because I imagine you probably didn't want to actively bet against your team. But,
yeah.
But we're sitting at plus 140 under 8.5. So I get why not wanting to bet it. Like you could end up losing money when you're sitting in a situation where you're the favorite to win. And that's not really obviously where you want to be. One of the other really big bets that, currently jump out at me is you can currently bet over 3.5 wins minus 164 for the Giants. We make that number minus 400. Ooh. I mean, we show a ton of value for them getting that 4th win. And so maybe, we don't think it comes against Tampa Bay, but we talked about some of the ways that when you're putting in a new quarterback, you're introducing variance here. And so with variance can come winning. So another one to be keeping an eye out on.
I mean, the Giants play the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. That could be 4 right there. I mean, next week.
So let me just do the math here. 400 divided by 500. 400 divided by 500 is 80%. So we make it 80% that they get that 4th win, and the break even right now is 164 divided by 264, which is 62%. So you're getting like an 18% edge.
That is some deep value.
Yeah, that's deep. All right. Yeah, FanDuel. Shout out. Minus 164. I might have to do that. That one's gross, but this is my time to bet. This is like the minus 133. What are you talking? Like minus 164. You're laying all this juice. Like you're a square. Like, yeah, but the problem is I don't have to, or the benefit of these types of bet, I don't have to bet very many of them for them to be right. Right? Like the one we were just talking about with the AFC, NFC, Buffalo, and Detroit, you have to bet that a lot in order to realize that 3% edge. You want to realize this 18% edge, you have to bet this like 3 or 4 times and you're going to realize it, because it just wins so often.
Yeah. I'll just look. I don't see any look ahead lines for the Giants Cowboys. Oh no, I'm sorry. I take that back. There are look ahead lines. Plus 2.5 at the rec books, kind of across the board. FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM. Let me see what the money line is going to be. You can get a plus 122 at FanDuel. Make every moment more. So to your point, and are they at 3 wins right? No, they're 2 wins. They're 2 wins right now. Never mind.
2 more.
Yeah, sorry. No, okay, never mind.
Well, look at headlines here. Okay, here. I have them up in debate. So Tampa Bay, they're 5-point dogs. Then they're 2-point dogs to Dallas as of now. If New York beats Tampa Bay, they'll be favored in that game. They're 1-point dogs to the Giants, to the Saints. That's all I have right now.
Sure. Yeah. I listen. That one is just mathematically too good to pass up.
It might be.
Yeah.
So somebody was asking, what's the last game that did they say the last game is Detroit?
Oh, for the Bears?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, the Packers. We end the season with the Packers in Lambeau. That's going to be an L.
I don't know. They could have beat them. You're defeated. You've been defeated.
Yeah. I gotta buy 2 Father's Day's gift. I gotta buy one for my dad and one for Aaron Rodgers still. I mean, come on. Of course I'm
No. It's no. We talked about this. That is now that present needs to go to Anthony Richardson. He consumed all AR responsibilities. He is the real AR. Aaron Rodgers literally is no more. He's no more. GM now fired. He's no more. He will not be returning. I don't think to the league, unfortunately. So Anthony Richardson. So my point is, you got an Indianapolis address versus a New Jersey address to send that to. All right, so that was value. I again, all those bets we went over, all expected value, all have you being in the driver's seat as far as edge. Now, do you want to pull the trigger or not? That's up to you. So we have talked about a ton of value in this episode today, and we're going to continue. We are going to talk about off the numbers, a segment that we have where we want to get a little creative. We want to have a little bit of fun. So instead of using, we're using analytics, we're using, our narratives, we're using our mental models, we're using our actual model. But this is a way for us to bet things that we aren't betting with the model necessarily, and allows us to have a friendly competition. Now, it's not all that friendly to me because I've been getting whooped on. I am 3-5. Steve is 4-4, and Kevin is 5-3. So we're only 1 week away from Kevin and Steve to be tied here. All right, let's start with you, Steve. Looks like you have Commanders -10. That is right, because tell us why. Why do you have Commanders -10?
Ask me again how ass the Cowboys are.
Yeah, how ass are the Cowboys?
Thank you. That's exactly why. All right, that's all right.
Yeah.
We're done. Yes, that's exactly why. This is purely a bet. Listen, I love what the Commanders have been doing. We've talked about them week in, week out, about how good that offense has been and how their defense has steadily been getting better. Now, of course, they did lose to the Eagles last week in a game that they were controlling for the most part, and then defensively it kind of got away from them. They are getting Marshawn Lattimore, so they should help shore that defense up. But this is more about the Cowboys than the Commanders. I think the Cowboys are a great team. I'm excited to see what they'll do in the NFC East and the playoffs. But the Cowboys are in absolute free fall, as evidenced by them getting blown out yet again by the Houston Texans. There is nothing that you can tell me about this Cowboys team that will make me believe that they can cover effectively any realistic spread posted in the NFL market today. I mean, this is just a top to bottom lost team. It's an organizational failure, and it's not going to change until they clear house. And until that happens, I'm not going to sit here and not try to profit from their misery. So I'm taking Commanders -10.
All right, and the Mike Tyson video or image there is a double entendre, right? Because it's each cheek. That's how ass they were, and then also representation of how ass that fight was that we all had to subject ourselves to. I think our model did show a little bit of value on Washington. Am I wrong in that? Am I misremembering? No, never mind. We make it 9, market's 9.5. So, and you took a 10. So you have no faith in the market and no faith in Dallas. Makes sense. No. I get it. It's just auto fade. You're the opposite of my army, basically.
Yes.
Okay. So Kevin is on Dolphins 7.5 here. Current market on Miami is 7. So the market disagrees with him. They've been buying New England. I mean, they had it all right. I didn't get to watch that game, but they had a interesting game against Vegas. I don't know if you want to call it a backdoor. It's like a backdoor of a backdoor. It ended up covering against Vegas. I think it's probably he's fading a rookie quarterback. That's probably not the worst thing in the world. I'm trying to remember what we make this number. We make this number 8. So a little bit of value, especially at the 7. And maybe that's why Kevin's buying it. I am on, I don't remember. What am I on? Perfect. I'm on Eagles 2.5. That's right. I'm going to follow the model here. I'm going to go ahead and lay that -115 over at Profit X. I'm going to use code BTB, get a little of my extra money when I pull out, and I'm going to lay the -115 Eagles -2.5. Really like that bet. I think I've learned my lesson. Like, I'm just only betting what the model tells me to bet, that we're not already betting. And this is one of those. Called Kansas City, lost last week with Bills covering. And I'm just going to continue this until I either catch up or get blown out. So that's where I'm at this week. I don't know. If you guys start to lose, I could catch up.
Yeah, no, listen, NFL is wide open. NFL is wide open.
Am I wrong? If you lose and Kevin loses, we'll be tied. Will we all be tied?
No, because
you two will be tied.
We're all a game behind each other.
I see.
So okay. yeah. If you win and I lose, you and I will be tied. And no matter what, Kevin
will be ahead. And then okay. All right. So I got time. We got weeks.
Yeah.
We got weeks to make up. All right, perfect. Now it is our favorite time where we recap what we're betting on, and we're going to go through what the model plays were for week 13. Now we are sitting at 28 and 25, which is almost right at break even, slight profit for us. We've had a number of these basically lose the VIG 50% weekends in a row, and man, I don't know. I mean, you could probably hear it in a way I'm talking about it, like. Really disappointed in the Colts cover there, and really how just I guess it's not obviously all Aaron Rodgers' fault. If anything, maybe I should be happy that they that he went down and scored the field goal there. It looked like they were going to go for it on that fourth down. I was kind of hoping that they would, but I was happy that they didn't. And so we ended up getting backdoored by the real AR, Anthony Richardson. The Colts ended up covering and winning that game against the Giants, which cost us our 3-1 weekend. We end up going 2-2. So we're headed into week 12. We have 3 plays here, and we are on Tampa Bay -5.5. Indianapolis Colts +8 and Arizona +1 -105, which is even better.
Mm-hmm.
We do like both the Colts at +7.5, Arizona at a pick'em or +1 -110, and Tampa Bay -5.5 as well. So you can pretty much get all of these still. I wouldn't move and touch Indianapolis at the 7. I definitely wouldn't touch Tampa Bay at the 6. And Arizona, I would touch anything less than a -1. Anything better than that is a bet for those things. So that's where we're at for week 12. Again, we're sitting at 28 and 25, basically right at profit or break even. And we're just we're basically right in the middle of the season. So we got about halfway. Yeah, we got many bets to make.
Oh yeah.
All right, Steve, what else do you have to add here? Anything?
No, other than, as always, thank you guys for really been watching us live in the chat, interacting. We love it. We love it. We love it. Please like and subscribe if you want to hear more from us. If you want to hear more about, kind of data-driven betting, smart bets, how to target smart bets, the tools that we use to try to make profit, things like that. Love interacting with you all. But other than that, just good luck coming into this week for NFL and college football.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself. Good luck with all of your bets this weekend. If you're tailing with our plays, make sure that you are liking all of our stuff so you can get all of the plays for the future. Go check out all of our college model stuff because we got a ton of value that we just gave out there. All right, Steve, we will see everybody in week 13. As always, guys, good luck and take care.